that going? It's going. Hello! And welcome to the Bechdel Theatre Podcast.
The podcast where we talk about gender and representation on stage.
I'm Pippa.
And I'm Beth.
And we're your hosts. Together again for intro. It's been a couple episodes since we've been together. But we are back, and this is our final episode for 2019. Oh my god, what a year.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Been great.
That's what we're riding on.
And we did genuinely have a great chat with Matilda.
Yes. So this episode, we talked to the incredible playwright Matilda Ibini about her upcoming show in the closing season of the Bunker's last season. Does that make sense? Her show is called Little Miss Burden.
And we have followed this show from its very, very beginnings, when we first got to know Matilda. We'll talk about that in the interview. But we are really super excited, could not be more excited to see this show on the stage at the Bunker.
So we hope you enjoy the interview and stick around as per usual to get our recommendations at the end for January 2020. Oh my god. Oh, but this is going out pre-election, so I don't know what mood we're going to be in for the rest of the month. But we hope that you find something to be optimistic about. Either way. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, everybody. We're here with lovely Matilda.
Hello, my name's Matilda Ibini and I'm a playwright and screenwriter from East London.
Woo!
Yay!
And Matilda's hosting us in her lovely flat.
Yes, her lovely warm flat on a very, very cold day.
Wait, the heater has not been turned off.
Oh really?
So nice.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yes, thank you for having us.
So we're here to talk to you today about your upcoming play, Little Miss Burden, which is coming to the Bunker from the 4th of December?
Yes.
5th of December? I don't know the days of the week.
It's the 4th till the 21st.
The 4th till the 21st of December. And we've been really excited about this play for a while, or what this play could have become, because...
For like 3 years.
Yeah, because we first met you in 2016 at Bryony Kimmings's week-long summer school. Yeah. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like how to make, I don't know,
be an artist.
Yeah, something like that. And Bryony set us all the challenge, as she does, to write what we would never write, the thing that scares us the most. And we both remember you saying, oh, I never want to write about my disability. But something changed. Because I remember you were exploring, you then, because she got us to all face the thing that we didn't want to write about.
Just in a room in front of each other.
Yeah, and obviously, like, her way of working is from autobiography and from herself, and she's quite, she feels very strongly about you being the person to tell the story as well. And you started kind of exploring it in that week-long school that we did.
And she was like, you've got to do this.
Yeah. We're all like, this is amazing, whatever it's going to become.
So what changed your mind?
That is a very good question, because I remember being in so two things. One, when I did the workshop, or before, when I was thinking about applying, I was in a really like depressive funk. So like I hadn't been writing for some time and just didn't think I was good enough and had a lot of self-doubt. And when I saw it advertised, I think I misread it, because I'm not a performer, and that course is like, I think was advertised for like live artists, like people who write and perform their own work. But I went in thinking, oh, it's all right if I don't perform. I just want to get some like tips on, or like new ways of approaching telling stories kind of thing. So I just thought, oh yeah, I'll go for the fun of just like, maybe I might learn something that might be helpful for my process, not realising we'd be forced to perform in front of each other, which I was absolutely shitting myself to do. But what changed my mind was, so after that session that week had ended, I was so like buzzing off of like new ways of like telling stories, and it's not all kind of having to start from text. It doesn't have to be so word heavy or like just starting just from writing. You don't have to just create with a pen and paper kind of thing. It took me about, it was almost like 6 months later, because like Bryony offered a kind of helping hand that if you wanted to develop this further, let me know. And then I didn't get back in touch with her till about 6 months later. And I think it was when I was a little bit better in my head, like brain space, like why didn't I want to tell this story? What was I embarrassed about? And I think that's when it became a little bit clearer that, like, I guess the biggest thing that I was scared of was like still being judged. Like, I've lived most of my life, but a couple years as a really young kid, disabled. What was I still embarrassed about that I couldn't talk about it or write about it? And it kind of seemed, not ridiculous, but like it just seemed like if I'm accepting of myself, I have to be accepting of all of myself. And so I felt like if someone a bit more experienced who's written autobiographically is offering to help you tell this story, I think you'll be in good hands. So that took about 6 months to get to that realization, that I don't want to be embarrassed anymore. I shouldn't be embarrassed. Being disabled and my disability is a part of who I am, but it's not all of who I am. It's kind of what.
So how did the idea, or when did the idea of Little Miss Burden kind of come through in this beginning to explore your own story and how you might tell it, and also choosing to write it for the stage as well, because I know you have a lot of experience in writing for screen and radio, but you felt this is the place I want it to be, on stage?
Yeah, I think there was something about just the liveness of theatre. So like having an audience come see a disabled protagonist for a run just kind of felt really urgent. Like it felt like I can do that a lot quicker than I could do say something like screen or what have you. I wanted it, and also because that's where I started out writing, was theatre, so it kind of made sense that would be where I would want to try it first, and if it didn't work, then try another medium. I think it was just important to kind of explore writing about myself, but in a very safe way as well. So I knew, for one, from writing it from the beginning, I knew I wasn't going to be performing it. So there was already that kind of distance. And then I knew that, one, I couldn't tell you the whole, like it'd be endless plays for many years. I couldn't tell you the whole saga. So I was like, what's the most important bit? And I felt like a coming of age about your formative years and how that informs you as an adult. I felt that period of time was really important to talk about, which is also a little bit the most difficult years in terms of the amounts that you're tested and before you get a diagnosis and all that kind of stuff. So that felt, there's just something about that period that felt really exciting to write about. And that's like, if this is the exciting bit, let's stick with this.
I think that's the beauty of kind of using autobiographical material as a material, rather than being like, I am writing my autobiography.
Yeah.
It's kind of almost like you're using a bit of your autobiography to then help, like, say something that you now want to say to the world.
Exactly. And also, what did I want to use that bit for? I think it made it clear that, like, I wanted to tell a coming of age story that some people are born disabled. They're not going to be cured or fixed. That is them. That is all they know, is to exist as a disabled person. And I kind of wanted to tell that story. I didn't feel like I'd seen enough of that story anywhere.
And some of the other tools you use to kind of tell this story is like, you use a lot of video game tropes, so like sound effects, but also there's this moment in the play where the characters are collecting rings like you're in a video game. There's also kind of a sort of cartoonish, almost like a fantasy element where you've personified, like there's certain characters called the Fade, Etty and LGMD, who are people in the play, but they're representing of conditions.
Yeah.
And I just wondered at what point did those sort of stylistic elements come in once you decided, right, I'm going to write I'm going to use my autobiography, and then when did you figure out what style to do it in?
That is a good question. I'm trying to think back to I think the style came, a little bit later. So that in the beginning, it was just trying to write which were the most kind of interesting events, but also events that linked up together. Because I think that's a great thing about autobiographical work is that, one, the audience weren't there, so they don't know. It's not to say that I've just made up stuff out of thin air, but they don't know what order things happened, and they don't know the real outcome. So there's a bit of a creative license to kind of, I guess, in a way, change what I would have liked to have happened that didn't, or put what did happen but in a different way, in a different light, and that was really fun to mix with a style in terms of how do I tell this moment. Obviously staying true to what that moment meant and all the feelings involved, but not having to feel like I needed to put my essentially show my insides to the audience. I don't think I could. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable writing certain things just because of who I am, but I at least got to tell the things that I am comfortable sharing in really exciting, fun ways that definitely did not happen like that in real life.
And that also reminds me of, I remember, just as you say that, when we were doing Bryony's summer school, about how she said, a way to protect yourself is to remember the things that you didn't share, and how that can really help her when she goes on stage and feels like she's burying herself, where she thinks, oh, well, the audience don't know this about me, and they don't know this about me, and they don't know this story, and a really nice way to kind of safeguard. Yeah. I can imagine it's quite strange to go back at your life and be like, oh, what are the interesting parts? And some of them might be really obvious and you're like, that needs to be in it. And some parts are like, is this dramatic? Is this, is this going to work? But also, as you say, having that freedom to be creative with it and look at it kind of objectively must be quite helpful when you're delving into your own life.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and also the instinct is just to put everything in to begin with, that you just put everything that happened, scene by scene, moment by moment, and then I've found, at least in a lot of my the work that I've made, is usually an outside eye coming in to help me sift what is interesting, what do you take from this, is this what I was hoping, is this the intention that I was hoping is this the outcome of the intention that I wanted, or kind of just exploring what are the different shows or ways that this story could be told. So it was really great being able to do that, and having Bryony with me on that journey, at least for the first R&D, in terms of picking out the moments that this is really important to share. I don't think we need this, or are you comfortable with having this on stage and people knowing this? So that was really helpful and supportive. I don't think I would have been able to do that on my own. But then thinking back, all the other things that I've written, I've always worked with a dramaturg. So there's always been someone that I could bounce off the ideas about. Does this make any sense? Am I going in the right direction? Is this the story that I wanted to tell? Am I telling it or not? So that's always been a kind of a consistent thing anyway. So
collaboration. I think that's a thing that a lot of people forget exists when they imagine a writer sat at their computer just splurging out the play as a finished product straight onto their laptop or onto their pen and paper. There's definitely a lot more collaboration, definitely by the sounds of it in your process, but in most writing processes I think there will be so many different stages. I love how you kind of make that clear in the play as well, that there's a process in telling the story. There's a consciousness in the framing of the story being told by little Miss Burden and her big sis and little sis, who help her tell the story, and it's the three of them are the kind of narrators of the story. So it sort of feels like your voice is in there saying, I'm in charge of this story, Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I was trying to figure out, which I can't say I know for sure, or that answer changes daily, is what does it mean to live as a disabled person? And it is to collaborate on a daily basis. I collaborate with my carers, a team of wonderful women whose job it is
to keep me alive and well, but also well enough to work and do the things that I want to do and to live my life on my own terms. And it just kind of made sense for this story to also be then told in collaboration, because I think it's the assumption that like if like I think not even the assumption, the misunderstanding of what independence means. Independence doesn't necessarily mean standing on your own and being able to do things by yourself, but actually collaborating with people to achieve a certain goal. Like it's less independence and more interdependence, that actually we are all reliant on others for so many things.
Speaking of which, how did you find your people to work on with the show?
It was very cast? Yeah, it was I mean, even when I found out that the Bunker wanted a programme, it was very surreal. So I'd met with Chris Sonics and Debbie Hannon after they'd read the play, and I thought they were just like, you know, just like when you have those meetings with a theatre or theatre company, it's just like a coffee, just to get to know each other, like, I'll keep us in touch about your work, not we want to put this on kind of thing. And I was like, what? Pardon? Could you say that again? So yes, and then when Debbie was talking to me about what she took from the play, like, you could tell she had a real personal connection to it, and was showing the play back to me in ways I hadn't imagined, which excited me. And I was like, you're onto something here. I think like you get the way my mind works. So once, we'd agreed that Debbie was on board to direct it, and Anne, who is in the R&D version of it playing Big Sis, was up for producing it. That was like a dream come true. That was like, I know the play's going to be in good hands. So with them at the helms and the Bunker on board, it kind of just really, I want to say it came together rather smoothly in terms of cast and creative team, set design and lighting and music. Like, it was, they all know, because they're such excellent people, they also know excellent artists, so they kind of just brought them in together. And when Debbie found the cast, I was like, I kind of just trusted her, because I knew she'd gotten the script, so and we'd had lots of conversations, so I knew we both knew what we were looking for, and I knew what she was looking for. So I let her get on with it, and when she had told me who she'd cast, one of whom was already a friend, she plays Annie Nelson, she plays Little Sis. I was like, oh my gosh, you've also cast my friend? What? This is amazing. Insane. So that felt like everything was coming into place at the right time and with the right people.
It's tempting to say fate, but it's like it's a conscious thing. If you're surrounding yourself with good people, then of course,
no, absolutely,
those like webs are gonna reach outwards, and you're gonna connect with others.
You just feel incredibly lucky. Like, you're like, this is too good to be true. I hope, like, I'm always quite paranoid about when good things happen, it means something bad is around the corner.
I know. Why are we all wired to think that? You always think that's happening. I was going to ask you about working at the Bunker and about access surrounding the performance as well. And I know that you talk about in the play about it being relaxed, and also there's specific captioned performances. You know, did it mean a lot to you to know that the Bunker has, for instance, 6, I think, wheelchair spaces available, so that it can hopefully reach the right audiences?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is something I'm still learning and trying to be more conscious of, because there's no like perfect production that is totally 100% accessible. But what I want to make sure is that the work I'm making at least is trying to make an attempt at being accessible. Even if I don't always get it right, or isn't as consistent as I would like. I think not having any access in work I create is perpetuating something that is also against me. Like, if I can't access something, why would I then make work that others couldn't access? That'd be highly hypocritical. So it's brilliant that like a place like the Bunker, which has no arts council funding, no regular funding, and is literally on the brink of closure, is able to say, yes, we can get 6 wheelchairs in without it being a quote unquote risk or hazard, like many well-known Arts Council funded buildings that we know of that I shan't name, but they know who they are, and it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit that only 1 or 2 wheelchair spaces per performance. Are there only 1 or 2 wheelchair users at any one time existing in the UK? Like, it's absolute bullshit. And so it meant a lot to be able to fit as many wheelchair users as possible. And though we have some caption performances in the future, again, it's about like me learning how do I embed captioning from the beginning in my work, and making sure that anyone who wants to see a show can see it on any day. Like I'm hoping with every production I'm making strides to better become a bit more knowledgeable about it, but also advocate that yes, we need to make sure that anyone can come see this show. There should not be a reason why someone doesn't feel like they could or doesn't have the choice to. Like, it's different if they don't want to see the show as opposed to can't see the show. So it is it's still a massive learning curve for myself. And this is stuff we're not taught on playwriting schemes and courses. When we're learning how to write a play, we're not taught about writing audio description. We're not taught about thinking about character. We're not taught or encouraged to think about disabled actors playing non-disabled roles. So therefore, if the character isn't disabled, people don't even consider having a disabled actor in the cast, kind of thing. And it's unfortunate and but also just kind of it's hella problematic, and I'm not perfect. I don't pretend to be, but I'm trying. With each hopefully with each show that I make, I get better.
We're talking about the kind of embedded access. I know that you're also, you're credited as dramaturg on Eve Leigh's Midnight Movie, which is coming to the Royal Court.
It is brilliant, Midnight Movie. Eve is a far better playwright than I am. She is incredible, her imagination, her skill, her craft. I was kind of confused when I was asked if I would dramaturg, because I was like, I've not had much experience. Like, I've read lots of scripts. As creators, we read a lot of scripts and stories and develop kind of analytical minds. And I kind of only agreed because I was like, I don't mind being a human sounding board. You can put dramaturg in the play text, but more kind of like a story sounding board / consultant kind of like.
I like that.
Because I feel like I'm more than happy to read stuff and feedback, because I feel like my understanding of story, I feel has improved, like vastly improved with writing and working with different actors and different collaborators. So I feel like I can offer that in terms of like, oh, here's some of the things I've done and tried to do when getting stuck on a beat, or I feel like something's missing but I'm not quite sure. Like, I never claim to try and fix anyone's plays. Only writers can fix their own plays. But what I can do is help hold up a mirror to see, is this what you hoped was reflected back, or is this what you intended, and is it achieving your intentions, kind of thing. So working with her has been a dream. She's amazing. I felt like I've learnt more from her than what I've probably given.
How would you describe what Midnight Movie is?
I guess that's a good question. It's a show about like, I guess living with a chronic condition, and I remember having a conversation about like existing in an unreliable body and what that means, and finding some kind of solace in the internet and stories on the internet, and the difference between and the difference between kind of having a digital body and your own body, and how both do have value. Like that there is value in having a kind of online presence, not just to be able to reach out to people and find people in similar situations or what have you, but like it is just it can have a similar effect. It can have a similar effect to kind of the way our bodies emote in a way, just because of how living with even like myself, living with an unreliable body can make you feel. Being able to reach people online can also make you feel, and I think she tells it's a very for her as well, a very personal story about someone trying to reconcile what it's like to exist in an unreliable body, but then also online, and that world feels just as real to them as the real world. But she does it so creatively and so imaginatively that I've not seen a story told like that before. That it doesn't have to be, when talking about disability, it doesn't have to be so literal. There are so many interesting ways of talking about disability in kind of very metaphorical and also philosophical terms. Yeah.
There was a bit that I noticed on the like website explanation for that play that was like under like kind of accessibility panel, and it said everyone's experience of the play will be different depending on your mode of communication. And I really liked the fact they were specific about the fact that when you're making something accessible to lots of different people, you're not making every person's you're not aiming to make everyone have the same experience, but you're acknowledging that everyone in the audience comes to the show with different experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're attempting is to level the playing field, that everyone has the opportunity to experience it. How they experience it is up to them, kind of thing. Yeah.
And I just to go back to the like online element of things, it kind of links in my mind thematically with the video game element in Little Miss Burden, and that idea of being like a little avatar in a game and being able to do these kind of impossible things. And I don't know if they're sort of in any way linked in your mind. There's also a bit in Little Miss Burden about where she talks about having done a really good poem in English and deciding whether to publish it on MSN or Bebo. This like, line of poetry, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because like not like art exists online as well. I know Midnight Movies has this amazing it exists in a digital form, so you can sign up to a mailing list and get parts of the play, like elements of the play, like sent to you.
So cool. Like, I don't know why more theatres aren't doing that. That there's other ways to engage with audiences than just the live experience, the live experience of it's just that whole team is a genius. But because I think that's a good point about like the video game element. So I think like growing up, for me at least, with a physical impairment, meant I spent a lot of time in my own head. So when I couldn't participate in a lot of daily activities, whether that was in school, at home, I'd go on these epic journeys in my head, to these worlds, on these adventures. I'd create the friends in my head that I didn't have in real life at the time. I'm proud to say I have friends now. So I spent a lot of time in my head, not necessarily living in my body. So it almost kind of made sense, one, that when I got older that I'd start just telling those stories out of my head, but also that being able to have like an avatar version of yourself. Like, I feel like we all probably have that in our heads anyway, but I'm kind of putting, not all of mine, but parts of mine on stage to tell this story.
I guess actors are kind of like avatars in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very true.
Yeah, not just for those of us who grew up online.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your family and your sisters and your mum who are a part of the play. How has it been with your family, like with them knowing that you're potentially writing about them, talking about your childhood?
Yes, we've had to
flattered? Or?
We've had to have the talk where you say, this isn't you, this is an avatar of you. This is not what I think of you, this is you plus lots of different people I've met amalgamated into these characters, which is why none of them are called, I didn't call Little Miss my name or Big Sis or Little Sis their names, because it's not them, it's not an accurate depiction of who they are. They are an amalgamation of lots of people who have helped me get to where I am today. And also I have a younger brother who's not in the play, but he's mentioned by nickname. But,
I love that bit about the Bechdel test, obviously.
Yes. And we've spoken. I was like, I'm not erasing you literarily or literally. Like, it is just for the sake of the way that I'd imagine this story, like very kind of very female centric and kind of mirroring itself on those black girl bands of the late 90s, early noughties, and yeah, so I've had to have the talk with them, and including with my mum, like, Mum, this isn't you, it's not what I think about you. Again, this is an amalgamation, it's an avatar, like, it's lots of different people are mixed in with bits of you, and I've taken just the good bits, you know. Because it was like, at first, I was definitely scared at first, because I was like, ooh, I'm writing some things they may not know about or forgotten, or some things they weren't privy to or present, but I've done it in a way, I feel like the style helps me get away with it without burning too many bridges, and I think it's most as well my story, so this is my version of events. Thanks, Emily Sande. This isn't, if they are free to counter it or say that no, that they don't think that's how that happened, or they don't remember that happening, that's absolutely fine, they can go write their own plays, but this is my version of events of growing up with something they didn't have. So yeah, I've spoken to everyone individually about it, but they're all coming to see it, so I'm kind of like, I feel like I'll still have a family after the show.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think anyone depicted in it is like, there's no slander in there. And also, like, it's clear that a lot of it exists in this sort of like the space between the imaginary and the real, where you feel the reality of it maybe, but there's also the kind of like hyper, like the video game, the cartoon, the girl bands, everything, like the colours turned up to brightness level, where you know that this isn't like a photoreal version of them, and you can tell that you've spent so many years honing your imagination to like create this epic world, and you also go on a journey, or Little Miss goes on a journey in the play to Nigeria. Oh my god,
Nigeria, god. I love the country and the people and the culture, and it's growing up like Nigerian but in the UK has been, I think it's definitely been a struggle, and particularly with disability thrown into the mix, because I faced essentially discrimination from both the British community and the Nigerian community, and they both have similar but also very different beliefs and views on what being disabled means or what it represents. And Nigeria, being quite a conservative Christian country, has obviously, because of colonialism, has some of the British values and views, but it's also mixed up with kind of traditional religion in terms of disability being looked down upon, being seen as a kind of bad omen, or the actions of someone. So this is a consequence of an action, and growing up, and also visiting Nigeria and seeing, like, so when I first went to Nigeria when I was 11, the biggest I'd say the biggest population of the homeless population were disabled people, visibly disabled people, people who couldn't walk, who didn't have limbs, who all sorts of conditions were ostracized. They were clearly on the streets because families had banished them from the house, that they either their lives were seen as of no value, or that they didn't bring goodness upon the house, that they were bad, they were evil, kind of thing. So seeing that at 11 and seeing like people who looked like me, so not only disabled people, but they were black disabled people, seeing them homeless on the streets begging was a shock to the system. That could have been my life. Had my mum not come to the UK, that could have been my life. We don't know. But also how the lack of infrastructure and support, like I still complain about the bullshit access in the UK, but I could never imagine it being worse until I saw it, until I saw what that could look like. So it was quite, it made feeling, when I witnessed that and seeing the lack of access in Nigeria, it made being disabled feel like it was a scary thing, that I wasn't safe either to myself or to others, and that was a real, it took me years to be able to like reconcile that, and how lucky, or not even lucky, just chance, fate, fortunate I was to have been born in this country. Not to say that this being born in this country has solved everything, but like the struggle is different.
I think I remember reading somewhere that you said with this play you wanted audiences to see a story that they hadn't seen before, and I have never seen that perspective represented on stage. So as well as being like this really fun comedy that has lots that I could relate to in terms of the era that we grew up in, and the kind of internet and gaming and stuff like that, that this element of both kind of disability and the cultural aspects of that, and seeing other parts of the world and how that impacts people differently is just massively eye-opening. I think it's going to be huge for audiences to see all of this in one show.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I do.
I hope so, because I think it's just more kind of how, hopefully, it also kind of shows how disability is linked to so many things. It's not just a person is disabled, but more so a person is disabled and a black woman and has a Nigerian heritage. Like, disability touches so many, or intersects with so many other aspects of identity. We cannot be labelling people as just disabled and nothing else. Because I'm proud to be a woman and disabled and black and Nigerian. Like, I'm proud of all of those things and how they all mix together. I have a very unique experience of the world. I see in both positive and negative ways, but like I wouldn't wish to be any other way. Yeah.
Speaking on the kind of important representation that you're bringing to the stage, and especially with this show, for audiences in a very kind of active and political sense, but also we were wondering, kind of harking back again to the kind of work that we all explored together with Bryony's summer school, is there any particular kind of emotion or way that you want the audience to feel maybe by the end? Because there's a very amazing monologue at the end of the show. And
that's a good question. I think the biggest thing is I just hope people don't leave numb. Like, I was very aware that I didn't want to tell like a tragic story. Like, we've seen them time and time again. Actually, they're sold as the singular narrative of what of the disabled experience, that they probably hate their lives. Who would want to live as a disabled person? I wouldn't, that kind of thing. When actually, it's rather hopeful. It's hopeful for the future, because there's so many, other than being disabled, there's so many other things to look forward to in life. Like the adventures and the people you're going to meet and the connections you're going to make, that I hope to some extent it is hopeful. It is that people feel hopeful when they leave. Or at least, even if not that, a little bit more enlightened about treating disabled people as people. I feel like even the word disabled people, when you hear that phrase, immediately for a lot of people it's minus human. Like the idea that the word disabled takes away from the person, as opposed to it being an addition, something to be proud of, something to be part of, a community to learn from and grow with. So I hope, at least if people don't leave hopeful, they leave a little bit less prejudiced. Would be nice. Because sadly the kind of inauthentic and ableist narratives that we've seen around disabled people have real world impacts. It actually genuinely affects the quality of life disabled people are able to access, when we're thinking, when the predominant narratives out there are, I'd rather be dead than disabled, or I'd kill myself if I was ever disabled, as opposed to, actually, wouldn't it be great if we lived in a world that was more resourceful and had more empathy towards everyone, not just disabled people, but actually, if someone is born disabled or grows or acquires disability at a particular age, that we have the resources to support them through it, that to show them that life isn't over. In fact, maybe a new life is emerging, but instead, the current stories out there are always about death is the better option, which is sickening, and for me, so painful for a young disabled person to hear, that as if their future is of no value or worth, that they are better off dying sooner, it physically makes me sick.
And I feel like one of the other narratives I see, also really a lot on social media, is the kind of inspiration porn kind of a disabled person, like maybe someone who didn't have sight gaining sight, or someone being the singular hero who was in spite or despite of their ability was able to overcome some huge barrier.
It's the fallacy of this dream that the only thing disabled people aspire to be is like everyone else, and
like assimilation.
And you're like, no, I aspire to be the best version of myself, and that's accepting all of me and loving all of me, not every day thinking about where's the cure, I can't live until there's a cure. It's like, well, if there's no cure, I'm still gonna live. It's there are some really positive aspects of the internet, and then there are some really saccharine, just toxic nonsense on there.
All of the above. Speaking of good representations, good role models, good things that we look towards, I was thinking we could share our feminist faves.
Yay! Great segue.
So people or things or movements or individuals that maybe you look to for inspiration. Have you got any?
I was gonna so that we're not here for another hour. I was gonna literally run down a list of people that, if you haven't heard, you should definitely be following, of both disabled and non-disabled people. I just think are amazing. So one or two of whom, rather, to begin with, are the Triple Cripples, and they run a podcast that is run by Jay Abdullahi and Kim Oliver, and they're both black disabled women, and they talk about what it's like to experience the world as black disabled women on their podcast, and they're just brilliant, hella funny, hella real, sex, relationships, work, education, they are just so... basically, anytime I listen to them, I feel seen. I'm like, oh my god, I'm not the only black disabled woman in London or the UK. I know they exist. It's just that we don't get to be in the same spaces at the same time often. So it's great to see those two women on a platform, and giving themselves a platform to reach out to as many people and show, hey, we're here and we're happy and we're living our lives and thriving. They're awesome. Another person I'd mentioned that I follow I found her through Twitter. Her name is Imani Barbarin. I hope I've said her surname correctly. And she's an American kind of activist, also a black disabled woman. And can I say journalist as well? Yeah, because she's written kind of articles around disability and talks a lot about ableism and the ways in identifying it, dismantling it, and is just hella intelligent. And I kind of I follow her because she just kind of times where I can't feel like I can articulate what I'm experiencing, which could be a mix of racism, sexism and ableism, she's able to so eloquently put them into words, put them into sound bites that I can then use to explain to people why this isn't acceptable, or I'm pissed off today because of all these other things. She's just brilliant. And there's also a model who has I think she has a type of muscular dystrophy. So I have a type, which is LGMD, and she has another type, and she's breaking into the fashion industry. It's incredible, and she's brilliant and has worked with I think Beyonce's Ivy Park and Calvin Klein, and has done runway, and she's gorgeous. Her name's Jillian Macardo. She's absolutely gorgeous, but also is highlighting the barriers not just she faces in trying to access that industry, but just the barriers she faces in everyday life. The most recent one was an airline. Countless of times this has happened, but an airline has broken her wheelchair. Therefore, she can't work or get about or go to shoots and all that kind of stuff. And she works internationally as well. And I was just like, oh my God. And for me, my wheelchair was broken for the first time last year. And it is a frightening experience. I just burst into tears as they were bringing my broken wheelchair down to me to the door of the plane. And I was like, you've broken my chair. And they're like, no, it's not broken. I was like, well, it's not foldable and it's folded. Oh. And I don't have a spare wheelchair in my backpack or in my luggage. Like, they are expensive. My wheelchair is my lifeline to the world, to the outside world, to be able to get about and live the life that I want to and to be able to access places. It is freedom. And for someone to break your chair and also to be so nonchalant about it, like there was kind of like no urgency, there was no just like, oh, you could just get a new one, can't
dismissal
you?
As well.
You know, yeah. It was so fucking scary. I was like, people don't even realise the ramifications of your wheelchair breaking down or being broken. That you're stuck. You'll be stuck in one place, and you may not even get to choose where you're stuck. So yeah, she's amazing. And there's also Kelechi Okafor, the Benz Punani womanist, who's just amazing. I listen to her podcast, Say Your Mind, and again, she just gives me strength in terms of like fighting racism and calling out bullshit, just not accepting it. Like, as I get older, I hope I give less fucks, because I don't want to be tolerant or polite. I want to call people out on their bullshit, because if you don't, it gives them permission to do it again. It means that it's fine. The shit that's happening is fine, and it's not. It never has been. So she gives me strength in slowly kind of like using my voice a bit more and not being afraid to call people out. And there's also Danielle Dash, who you should definitely follow on Twitter. She's hella funny, but also she's the articles and blogs that she writes, everything about, again, existing as a disabled woman, not just in the world but also in our industry, in media representation, and the real life ramifications that has on our experiences. She's a good egg. You should definitely follow her, and yeah, she's just brilliant. I just feel like that's just a snapshot, because I could keep going.
Great. Oh my God, they're all amazing.
Yes.
That's so great. I can't wait to go and follow everyone on Instagram.
And so many podcasts as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's the great thing about like the internet. Like, it is kind of, to some extent, trying to democratize power, that people who didn't have a voice in the mainstream are building up kind of cult followings online, and hopefully will one day break into the mainstream and dismantle a lot of the bullshit that's currently happening.
The mainstream is moving. Yeah. The mainstream is becoming what's online.
They're scared. They're scared, and I'm glad.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I feel like that kind of leads into, because every feminist faves, I'm always like, oh, what's new? Like, what am I looking at? And I only just realised before coming here, there's like, oh, there's people that I already follow and that I'm interested in and engaged with that I forget to recommend to people. So 2 YouTubers that I've watched for a while now. One is British, called Jessica Kellgren-Fozard.
I follow her.
Do you follow her?
She's
Isn't
brilliant.
she amazing?
Yes.
I love her.
Yes.
She lives in Brighton. I don't know if she's from Brighton, but she lives in Brighton, which is where we're both from. She is a disabled activist online. She's a lesbian. She's married to another woman, and she's like beautiful. She's like one of those people that like live their lives as like a vintage kind of 1950s kind of beautiful like icon. And I've been following her for a few years, and she's gained a huge following, which is so good to see, because she is doing so much for talking about her experiences. She shares, videos to do with sign language. She did a really great one recently about why banning plastic straws is really bad for the disabled community, and just really, I can't remember the conditions she lives with, but it has lots of different conditions that come from it, and it affects her in lots of different ways. And so much of what she experiences are people not believing that she's disabled, or they're like, oh, but you can't be deaf. I thought you were blind. You can't be both. Or like, why are you tired? I thought like trying to like compartmentalize all of her conditions. And she's like, actually, you can live with multiple conditions, and it can affect me in lots of different ways. And yes, I can get tired and need a carer, and still do my hair like this, and it doesn't mean I'm not disabled. So she's really, really amazing. And also a American YouTuber called Molly Burke, who I've been following recently, who identifies as a blind girl, and she is visually impaired and talks a lot about how she navigates life and with her dog, and even things that, because I don't know any people visually impaired that much, and she talks about how she uses her phone, how she uses apps, how she accesses the internet, how she uploads her YouTube videos, how she does her makeup every day because she has a full face of makeup and has tattoos, and all these kind of misconceptions that I had and many people have about what someone with a visual impairment, what a blind person can do and enjoy. She completely dismantles them, and again, she has a huge following, so it's like, I don't know, it's just amazing to see what the internet can do in terms of, yes, people can make their own content and they can get their voice out there, as opposed to having, I mean, I'm sure they do have their own censorships to worry about, but it's the new media is the way forward for marginalised folk, basically. So those are the people I will recommend.
Amazing.
Beth, who's your feminist fave for this month?
I'm ashamed I'm being so mainstream this month. But I did just 2 days ago binge listen to Dolly Parton's America, which is a podcast about Dolly Parton. And
is it about Dolly Parton?
It's about Dolly Parton, and Dolly Parton's on it.
Okay.
So it's basically this guy who is Lebanese American, and he was brought up in Tennessee, where Dolly's from. So Dolly Parton was always part of his life, and it's about sort of him just seeing Dolly through new eyes. So he grew up surrounded by Dolly Parton. I love Dolly Parton, by the way. And so I was I had seen lots of people listening to it online, and I was like, how can't believe you guys have just discovered Saint Dolly Parton. What the fuck is the world coming to? But so it's really interesting because he finds so many different perspectives to look at her music from. So he looks at her music from the perspective of himself coming from an immigrant family, and what his music means to immigrant people in America listening to her music and thinking of their home when she sings about her home. He talks about her queer following and what she means to LGBTQ Americans who he talks to people who have been estranged from their family and found solace in her music. He talks to people who he talked to somebody who was in jail with Nelson Mandela, and apparently Nelson Mandela used to listen to Jolene in prison.
I've heard that story.
I think you might have heard it because it was on the podcast, and so it's been doing somebody tweeted it being I just listened to this podcast. I can't believe that the reach of Dolly Parton is just ridiculous, and the things that people find in her lyrics. But then he also talks to musicians in America who are musical historians, who talk about the history of where country music and bluegrass music originated, and all of the different origins of the instruments and the styles of music, how some of it comes from the Middle East, some of it comes from African slave music, and just the kind of number of different threads that they go off of by just listening to a Dolly Parton song and talking to Dolly about the song, and then talking to all of these other people across the world about their songs. It's interesting even if you're not a Dolly Parton song, but it really helps if you enjoy Dolly Parton's music.
Also, if you're not a Dolly Parton fan, why are you listening to a podcast?
Anyway, that's mine. Sorry, it's very mainstream.
No, that's amazing. Oh my god. Oh, and correction. It turns out her name is Imani Barbarin.
Imani Barbarin.
Yeah.
Okay, I shall remember that name. I'm going to go down and go home and write all of these down so I can go and follow everyone.
It's great. This is all procrastination material. When I should be doing work, I'm going to be listening to all these podcasts.
That's part of the process.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's not procrastination. It's percolation period, where you let all of your ideas percolate while you do something else, and then you go back to the script and have a revelation in your writing.
There a word for that? I didn't know that was what it was called.
Percolation is like coffee. Where you pour the coffee, you pour the water in the coffee, and then you let it sit. Or you let it drip down through the filter. That's the time that you leave it to sort of do its thing. Yeah, exactly. It's very important. Listening to podcasts and watching YouTube is an essential part of the creative process.
I'm going to have put it in contracts. Matilda needs a percolating period.
Yes.
It's like how you get stuck and then you sleep on it and you come back to it and you're like, oh, I know.
Yeah, so important.
Your brain needs to reset sometimes.
Okay.
Do you have any future work that you wanted to plug before we say goodbye? Anything coming up that you're working on?
Anything you can say.
You're allowed to just tell people to look out for if they're listening in 6 months to a year's time. And
6 months a year. Hopefully, I might have filmed my first feature.
Oh my gosh!
But we're still working on the script. But that would be really cool if it did happen. And is anything? No, I don't really have. Yeah, it's kind of weird because I feel like I live month to month, so I don't know that far ahead. Like I don't even really. Yeah, I know what I'm doing next month, but that won't be out for some time. But I feel like I live month to month. So but I'll be shouting it from the rooftops when I have something.
Yeah,
great.
We'll link to
We're
your
gonna
social
share.
medias where you'll be doing all the shouting.
Yes, everything. Cool. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
We so can't wait to see the show.
So excited at
Thank
Bunker,
you.
December 4th to 21st. Go and see it. Thank you, Matilda.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.
Thank you to Past Pippa and Beth and Matilda.
Yay! And don't forget to go and see Little Miss Burden at the Bunker.
So we spoke about Little Miss Burden and Midnight Movie in that interview. Midnight Movie is on at the Royal Court until the 21st of December.
And also at the Bunker in the final season is The Girl with Glitter in Her Eye, which is on their Monday and Tuesday slots that they do at the Bunker. That is on in January from the 12th and 13th, the 19th and 20th, and the 26th and 27th. So that's the Mondays and Tuesday slots. And that is a cross arts show created by an explosive collaboration of female and LGBTQIA+ artists, fusing spoken word, original live music, exceptional performances, telling the story of a friendship complicated by the revelation of trauma.
I keep hearing about this show.
It's a company called Opia Collective, and they seem like ones to look out for. So go and see that one if you can.
Also at the Royal Court, we've just spoken about Midnight Movie, but also is the upcoming Scenes with Girls, which follows Tosh and Lou over 22 scenes. Other friends have come, got boyfriends and gone. So what? Tosh and Lou have each other. They're not interested in becoming cliches. They'll never be like other girls. This is love. This is enough. And Scenes with Girls is going to be on at the Royal Court from January the 15th to February the 22nd. So an exploration of female relationships.
The Undefinable is on at Camden People's Theatre from December 10th to 21st. This is a live radio gig theatre from a company called She Goat. And it's a brand new show which explores unconventional relationships and celebrates unusual and underrepresented qualities of love. So these two performers, they are playing two dudes, kind of, in a garage studio doing a late night radio broadcast, and it's about time slipping between love and 70s folk and 18th century French philosophy, and everything gets tangled. They say to expect historical wigs, irreverent nudity and reckless dancing, and a whole lot of coffee as they embark on a queer platonic mixtape into the unknown future and forgotten past of doing love differently. And this performance sounds great because every performance is accessible to visually impaired audiences using live integrated audio description.
Sticking to kind of shows coming up until Christmas, Pecksmith is on at the Yard until December the 20th. Pecksmith is the Christmas show by Drag King Collective. Pecs, we've spoken a lot about them. You know we love them. We went to their Christmas show last year, and it's becoming a bit of an office Christmas party for Bechdel Theatre. So we will be there on December the 20th, and there's like an after party afterwards. So come on that night. I think it could be sold out, but they might have just released some more tickets, someone told me recently. So come along on the 20th, have a office Christmas party with us, and it'll be a great way to kind of celebrate Christmas with a bunch of saucy drag kings.
Speaking of saucy drag kings, next up is my drag king collective, The Family Jewels.
Whoop, whoop.
Yay! We are hosting a Millennium New Year's house party at DIY Space on New Year's Eve. So we are turning back the clocks and pretending that we are still in the year 2000 instead of going into the year 2020.
Oh, what a time.
What a time. A time before austerity politics, Tinder, selfies, all of those things. So the only phones we're allowing are Nokia 3310s. We won't be that strict, but we do ask that everyone comes dressed to party like it's 1999.
Ooh. What were you doing at the Millennium? Do you remember?
Street party.
Street party.
Street party with my parents, and I remember that I used a black eyeliner to draw on black lipstick for one of the first times, and I was like, this is a great time to debut my new goth look at my parents' party.
Oh my god, I saw the funniest meme earlier, which was like, no, it wasn't a meme, it was a reductress, and it was what was it? It was something like, can't wait to like buy this like sexy Christmas outfit to wear in front of my parents, because it was like two women in like these sexy like evening dresses that like to go to like a party, but it's like can't wait to wear this for my parents on Christmas Day.
Well, that's what I was up to on the Millennium. What were you doing on the Millennium?
I was at a friend's family house party.
Everyone was at a party.
I wonder, I'm just wondering if we knew each other because we were both in Brighton.
Oh yeah.
I was in Elm Grove.
Yeah, I actually have a feeling that Dominique and Charlie came round that evening, like knocked on the door, carol singing or carrying a piece of coal or something.
Sounds like them. Anyway, digression. I just wondered what were you doing in Millennium?
Tweet
listeners?
us, let us know.
to see the scope of like what we were doing when we were like that age. And what we're doing now.
Well, it's going to have the same soundtrack at the Family Jewels Millennium Christmas party.
Yes.
It's going to be Robbie Williams, Will Smith.
Would young Beth have ever
Backstreet
imagined
Boys.
the older Beth?
No, I would have been like, Foo Fighters only.
So obviously that's at New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, the DOI space. And our final Christmas show is Christmas at the Snow Globe, which is the globe. It sounds really cute. It says, someone has stolen the magic of Christmas from Snowdrop, the fairy who stands watch over our wooden O during the winter months. Comedian Sandy Togsvig and her merry gang need your help to find it and bring it back to the globe. The cast will be joined by London's LGBT plus classical choir, the Fourth Choir, who will encourage the audience to sing along with their favourite classic Christmas songs. Every performance has integrated BSL, and that is on from December the 19th to 23rd. So if you have any like friends, family, little ones, cousins, whatever, coming to visit you over Christmas in London, this sounds adorable.
So cute. So just...
I really want to see this choir.
I know.
The classical choir.
And so
Amazing.
the cast includes Sandy Toksvig's sister, Jen.
Oh, Jen, yeah.
And also Stella Duffy's in the cast as well.
Oh.
It's such a lovely group of people.
Oh my
It's
God,
going to be a
amazing.
great show with
Amazing.
a good vibe. Also at the Globe, we should say there's also a show coming up called Swive, which is on at the Sam Wanamaker Playhouse, which is the lovely candlelit indoor space at the Globe. That's starting December 7th, and it goes on until February 15th. And that is about Queen Elizabeth I, the only unmarried woman to rule England. She reigned for 44 years, and they say she is mastermind, seductress, survivor. It's a brand new play by Ella Hickson, and it's about the means by which women get power and negotiate patriarchal pressure in order to get their way.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had that recommended to me personally by somebody who worked at the Globe and saw me out somewhere, ran at me and accosted me and said, "You must come and see this Swive show, it's going to be epic." So that comes with a personal recommendation.
And one final show for us to kind of see in the new year with is Fairview at the Young Vic. And I'll just read you the synopsis. It's Grandma's birthday and the Fraser family have gathered to celebrate. Beverly just wants everything to run smoothly. Oh, this sounds so relatable. But Tyrone has missed his flight. Keisha is freaking out about college and Grandma has locked herself in the bathroom. Following a groundbreaking sellout run in New York, Jackie Sibley's Jury's Fairview is an integration of our subtly destructive preconceptions. This radical examination of power is directed by the Young Vic's Genesis fellow and associate director Nadia Latif. Fairview is the winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Drama and the Susan Smith Blackburn Prize for Female Playwrights. I've heard so much about the show.
It is so stellar. It's won all those awards, had this amazing New York run, and now it's like getting stars, or not that we care about stars, but it's getting stars all over the place, and it's selling out. However, Nadia Latif tweeted the other day saying, if you show up for returns, there's a good chance you might get in, because they often have seated returns, and they sometimes sell standing tickets on the day, I think, as well, at the Young Vic.
Yeah, that's
so
quite good then.
there still are plenty of opportunities to get in and see it, and I'm going to give that a good try.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And so Fairview is on until January the 23rd. And that's all the recommendations we have for now, but I'm sure we will find some more in the new year. Have a good holiday, whatever you may celebrate. And see you the other side of the election.
See you in 2020.
Bye.
Bye.